Welcome to the War Business Podcast, hosted by Matthew Bruneman, the author, Brendan Clark, your consigliere for all things war, and Dakota Maynard, the Appalachian War Wizard. War is a business. Some would even call it a racket. Every modern war and every business has a carefully crafted marketing image. The War Business Podcast breaches that veil so you can hear the real stories of the average Americans who fight our wars and drive the war industry forward. Our mission is to tell the stories of conventional warriors, let the captains of the war industry share their endeavors, and inform the listeners of current global conflicts. All three hosts served in the United States Marine Corps and hold well-informed perspectives of war and war business. This concludes your introduction. Stand by for the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, light duty commandos and no shaved chit holders, EPD Marines, and barracks duty NCOs, welcome back to the War Business Podcast. Today we're doing part 3 of Matt's book review. We'll pick up where we left off last time, where Matt is preparing to deploy to Afghanistan for the second time. But before we start, Matt, is it true the redacted parts of your book involve you alone in a porta-shitter with a picture of your recruiter in his tight-fitting dress blues?
That's classified information, brother. You don't have a need to know.
You can't fucking classify your way out of all of these answers.
Absolutely. That's part
God, I hate
and
it
parcel
here.
to having security clearance. There's just some things that the peons do not need to know.
Overclassification is the biggest problem with national security in 2026, year of our Lord. Also, tight-fitting dress blues, maybe a new Conway Twitty song coming out soon
About
Maybe.
Matt's recruiter.
about Matt's recruiter.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So where we left off last time, you came back from Afghanistan and then you were getting ready to deploy again. You find out that you're going to go to Afghanistan again. So chapter 11, the title of that chapter is 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. Anything you want to say about it before I start asking you some questions?
I'm really stuck on thinking about my recruiter in tight dress blues, so I'm not too sure. Uh, I guess one thing I would say about this particular episode is, Clark, you gotta chime in as much as possible. Not that you don't have that opportunity anyways, but there's a lot about this period of my service that have been blown out of my memory. So yeah, let's get on with it.
All
Scooped
right.
like so many mashed potatoes.
All right. So some things that I noted in the chapter, some more talk about the generals losing the war, telling fibs to Congress about telling people what they wanted to hear instead of the truth. And that doesn't do anybody any good, does it?
No, so this is gonna harken back to what, circa 2009, 2010, when President Obama had said, we are going to do a troop surge for Helmand province. Um, it's only going to be 2 years. So we're going to surge and then we will withdraw from Afghanistan in 2 years. This would be end of 2012. So that was according to his timeline. So when Clark and I go to Afghanistan, when I go for the second trip, this is the beginning of or mid 2012. So that's why I talk a lot about the generals and our specific mission for Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and the generals' timelines and why 2 years was magically going to work. How we could you could take the worst province in all of Afghanistan with the most fighting and say it's going to be done in 2 years, and that's only if you know you lie your way to that end state.
How did we go from we gotta kill bin Laden to killing bin Laden to we're only gonna do 2 more years? Like, what meeting in the Pentagon occurred where they were like, "All right, boys, we got him.
I
Now we
have a
gotta
theory.
now we gotta stick around. Now we gotta finish the ball game." Like what, dude? Though that was the tiebreaker, dude. It wasn't we were like that was the tiebreaker. We got Bin Laden in like May of 2011. What the fuck? We're just hanging out like nation building, and obviously that's not real. It's
I
not a
think
real
the
job.
the troop surge was mostly to bring Bowie Bergdahl back home. We needed to find him, and we needed to bring him back home. So Obama said we need to send a lot of troops for that. No, obviously that's a joke, but that's one of the more notable disasters of the war. I think a lot of people disagree with how that all went down. Bit of a mess though with the troop surge,
What's the
giving timelines.
disagreement? I remember that the dude. I just don't remember there being a disagreement amongst the civilians. What
It,
was it?
it's like who we swapped him for.
The
It's like we
civilian population in the United States, I don't think really knew like shit about that circumstance, really. I mean, even like when we went in 2012 and they were like, if you see this guy, like let us know. Like the story, there was two stories to why Bo Bergdahl was in a Taliban camp then. And then it comes out later. It's like, no, he just went to hang out with the Taliban. Like they were actually pretty chill with him. And we
Yeah, he
traded him,
wasn't captured. He left on his own.
right? And then when they traded back for him in what, 2013 or 14?
think it was 14.
I know I was in the chow hall when I saw it on the news television. The chow hall's always got the news playing. And the like NCOs that were in the chow hall, it was in Courthouse Bay. And so there was a lot of students in there that are like, oh, thank God we got this guy back. But there was a lot of like salty combat engineer NCOs in the chow hall that were like, we did fucking what?
Like the exchange was so lopsided in favor of the Taliban, just how I recall it all going down. Like the CIA and Taliban had met basically like on this hilltop, and then like they're negotiating. It's like super tense conversation happened. Like two Blackhawks land, and we like dumped two Blackhawks worth of high-ranking Taliban members back to the Taliban in
Why,
exchange
why,
for.
why didn't the Black Hawk with Bo Bergdahl take off and then like Tomahawks land right after that? Like, we
Yeah,
know what they are, dude. Hit them, bro. What are you doing?
I think that's where a lot of the disagreement came from on that whole situation too, is like, why are we working with these guys? Like, why are we negotiating a prisoner swap? Why don't we just go rescue him or whatever? Just didn't go out as I think frowned upon from the military perspective about how that all went down. Got us derailed a little bit on that. Any other or Bowie Bergdahl comments or concerns we want to talk about?
No.
Yeah, I
Okay,
thought I
yeah.
saw him. I thought I saw him in Afghanistan.
I was wondering if this is the guy
Yeah.
that Matt was like from one of the other episodes where Matt's like, they're thinking about shooting the guy, and he's like, "How's my English? I learned it in Florida." I'm like, I wonder if that was fucking Bowie Bergdahl working for the Taliban. You know,
I thought I saw him, but it was just our radio operator having really bad diarrhea. So it was not Bo Bergdahl. It just turns out it's just Stoikai. He's shitting his guts out.
damn. Another thing that I noted about this chapter was basically like the ANA or Afghan National Army not being ready to take over, basically in any capacity.
Yeah, so that was I mean, a big issue through the entire war. Obviously, we saw it culminate at the end of the war when they folded in 5 days, and I don't know if you actually want to say they folded. There was no like skirmish. They just left. And so on my first deployment, we were doing a lot of mentoring with the Afghans, and then me being within the regiment, we were on the kind of command side of the Afghan Kandak Corps. I think it was the 215th Kandak Corps, their regimental staff. So their intel section was one lieutenant equivalent. If I don't know how you ascertain an officer position, but in the Afghan army. But anyways, I met with this guy 2 times, maybe 3 times, and then he was just gone. He never came back. And then that leads into a lot of the Phantom cores. Have you guys heard of the Phantom cores? Clark, I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, buddy. Oh,
You
I
want
am the fuck aware. I got something to say about the about the A&A band when we get to a break here. But yeah, the
something we
Phantom
can't say
Core.
on air?
No, something I want to say on air because something I noticed. This is when I was doing this was the height of my geopolitical for Congress career is when this is happening. So
Run it,
I was
run
like
it.
tuned way in. All right, we're gonna sidebar real quick. So right before Cobble, right before the ANA folds like a cheap wallet from Tilly's or whatever, they had like the I don't know, like the 5 year ceremony or something. And so they got the ANA band out there. All right, and they post this, this is like a DVids or whatever. It goes on like C-SPAN 9, and they're out there like waltzing Matilda or whatever. They're like national, whatever their band is playing, dude. And I noticed two things. All right, it's like little known secret about me. So it's pretty broadly known. Recovering band nerd from back in the day, back in high school days. All right, I was the drum major. Anyway, so the band has all these Afghans that can't march in step, so there's no way that they're going to play some complex piece. First, I noticed three things about it. The first thing I noticed was that the drum major or whatever, the band leader for the Afghan marching band was an American. This is some dude that left the Marine Corps band, got in on private military contracting, and got a once in a lifetime gig, like a once in a lifetime contract. Hey, we need a real band nerd to come be in charge of the Afghan band. This guy jumps on it. He had his Oakley oil rigs or whatever, like the 2000 and what oil cans, not oil rigs. Oil rigs were the fucking huge ones. He had the oil cans, the tactical, as he's freaking boop boop bow boop boop bow. All right. The second thing I noticed is that all of the Afghans were playing the same sheet of music. So like whenever you have a band, you have like brass, you have strings, you have like low, like your treble clef music instruments or whatever. And the the bass clef music instruments. So like the bass side of the band plays like a lower end, like a it's part of the tempo and the harmony thing. Then like the brass and the woodwinds are gonna play like your actual melody. Not the case here. They were all playing the same notes because obviously they're Afghans. They probably can't read music, like, let's be honest. And then the third and the most intriguing thing I noticed was that they had a sax horn in their midst. And what that means to band nerds is this is a instrument that has been, I don't know, phased out like over 100 years ago. A sax horn was replaced by, I think it's called a baritone. And so it's like in between low brass and like a trumpet or a French horn or whatever. It's in the middle. It's like a, I don't know, dude, it's like a treble instrument or something. I don't know. Anyway, but this is an instrument that you would almost have to get. They do not make them. You'd have to get them in like a museum. And so I'm like, what fucking museum did the ANA marching band rat fuck to get their instruments? Where it ended up with one of these illiterate dudes playing a fucking sax horn, and it's on international television. Granted, it's like C-SPAN 8, 14 people are watching it, all total. I'm one of them. And I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure that was a sax horn. I was talking to one of my coworkers and he's like, what is that? And I'm like, click, 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 Google machine. And I was like, dude, it's a fucking sax horn for real. So the Afghan band is a phantom unit. These people are being paid as musicians. They're not real musicians. They don't even have real instruments. They have antiques that belong in a fucking museum. And that was so indicative of like how made up and fake the whole fucking thing was. And this was in like June of 2021, right before Kabul, was willed by Allah to secede to the Taliban or whatever.
Oh, the whole country does in about a week.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, okay, so the Phantom units were just units that did not exist. So they existed on paper. The Marine Corps, or I'm sorry, the U.S. taxpayer were paying the paychecks for these people, for these soldiers, for these entire battalions that did not exist. But the money was going to Afghan generals. I did mention an episode or two ago about video cameras and Afghan generals. But, anyways, so that was the Phantom issue. For the people that were there, they sucked shit, first of all. I've heard good things about like the Afghan special forces and whatnot, but I think that might be like they pass kindergarten, they can load 30 rounds into an AK or something like that. But I've heard good things about Afghan special ops. Um, so you have the Phantom Corps, the Phantom units, but then you just have the general disposition of the Afghan forces. So you had the Afghan National Army, you have the Afghan Civil Order Police, Afghan National Police, you have Afghan local police, and all of these different, factions of law enforcement or whatever. So that's an issue in and of itself. And then the last part, the icing on the cake, which people should be indicted for this. The Afghan military units were being sent to areas where they're being recruited from certain tribes and sent to areas where that tribe has issues with the tribe that they are now supposed to be defending. So think of like Native Americans, where nobody hates Native Americans more than a different Native American tribe. That's how it is with the Afghan tribes. Um, so these, I mean, just to say, yeah, the Afghans are going to provide security for each other. It's like, yeah, well, before we got here, they had just spent a couple thousand years murdering each other because in that tribe. So it's to say the Afghan National Army is ready to assume control of Afghanistan. You can't even say that. Um, yeah. So that's my piece on the Afghan army not being capable or prepared or ready or any of that.
What would be the difference of or difference between Afghan or A&A generals and just war leaders that got a fancy or like warlords that got a fancy uniform and they're just taking bribes? Are they pretty much like the same thing? Is that what the A&A generals were basically like tribal warlords and they're just getting paid off by the United States?
Effectively,
I think
yes.
warlords engage in more combat than the Afghan upper officer ranks. And the Phantom troop thing is it ties into what we talked about before, where they don't have like names and shit. They're like all they just like pick a name. It's like Muhammad the fucking shepherd is what their names translate to or whatever. But like Muhammad the small engine repairman. But so like some General Mustafa or whatever is General Ikhlas, right, is like, yeah, I got 39 dudes. He's got 0 dudes. But because they don't have fucking bank accounts, like the dispersing can't wire the troops money, so they disperse 39 paychecks to General Dickhead over there. And then he's like, "Ha, I got you." He's like, "Joke's on you. I'm going to I don't know, what do they blow their money on? What is the Afghan they're not maybe he's using it to buy more bachabazi or something. Who knows? Whatever they blow their money on.
Probably sitting on a mess of AFES coins. I don't know either.
No way.
But no, Clark, Clark brings up a good point. So even, yeah, that was the case with the Phantom Army, but that was also a very big issue with the actual armies that did exist. The paychecks would go to the corps commander, or, it'd come down to a specific level, and that dude was supposed to divvy up paychecks. But they didn't, or they did, and they skimmed some off the top, and then, you know, why, I'm a Afghan Lance Corporal. Why am I going to show up to work when I haven't been paid in 9 months? And yeah, so. That's an issue
Your
too.
whole battalion goes UA, and like counterintuitively, it actually works out for the Afghan battalion commander because he's like, now I don't have to give him any money. I just keep reporting that I have 43 dudes under my charge. All of them have gone back to the mountains to fight Americans because they think that Americans took their money. And here I am living freaking large, dude. I don't have to be a hot dog salesman ever again.
No, they probably did it for like 15 years straight. We're like, they haven't caught me in the first 14 years. Like, I'm good for this year. We really messed that up. The whole thing that blows my mind about the A is the Soviets did basically the same playbook for trying to stand up an Afghan national military during their occupation of Afghanistan, and it totally failed. And then here we come in just a few decades later, and we're like basically the same playbook. Like, it's really going to work this time, guys. We're going to nation build. We're going to give them all these tools, and it's going to be the next great either democracy or next great communist country. And they just don't give a fuck. Like liberal nation building on whichever side you want to make it a, or it just never works out. Um, and we had the lessons from the Soviets that, it wasn't even that long ago that we could have learned from. And we make the same exact mistakes, expecting a different result. It blows my
Yeah,
mind.
the Soviet, I guess, mission overall, what was that war? 10 years, 13 years,
Something like that. I think it
something
was
like
just
that, 10
slightly
years.
over a decade.
Long enough for a
Uh,
couple Rambo sequels.
that's true. Yeah, so the first 2, 3 years, they had more of a colonial ambition. So they were going in there and they were actually whipping a lot of ass, and it was you will live this way. You will adhere to now our way of life. And then after, first couple of years, Soviets started rotating their troops from actual Russians to, a lot of their satellite states going over there, and it devolved from colonial expansion to nation building.
You think if the CIA hadn't been like, here's an infinity fucking Stinger missiles, like you think that the Soviet Union was cruel enough to beat Afghanistan? You don't think so? Dakota doesn't think so. It's they were like, I mean, you think you okay, 1-to-1 comparison like Afghanistan or Soviet Union and United States, it's not a 1-to-1 comparison because we were not chopping up villages with Hinds, like the Hind helicopter is that's pretty good for counterinsurgency because it's got all of the guns that you need in a gunship, but it also has a squad of hateful ass dudes in the back. You can just put them down. Unless there's a Stinger missile coming its way, then it's in deep shit, right?
Yeah, I just think long counterinsurgencies are like counterproductive because you're going to nation build, but then simultaneously you're going to destroy buildings and other infrastructure to kill insurgencies. And I think it just becomes this never-ending money pit of like you're trying to do this, but then you're killing this, and it's just never going to last. I don't think if you accomplish, you basically, in my opinion, you have to accomplish your objectives within the first couple of years and then get the fuck out and then hope that it stands. I think the longer you go fighting an insurgency, the more counterproductive it becomes.
So do you think that nation building is like communism in that it's never been tried correctly? Or that nation building is like communism in that it no doesn't matter how you try it, it's not going to work?
The thing about nation building is you have to scrap the ideology. You can't say this is going to be the shining example of communism or this is going to be the shining example of democracy. You have to give them an economy. So, like when we nation built South Korea, we gave them an economy, but we left their dictator. We said, we'll forget about that. But we stood up an economy in South Korea. And then over time, it became successful. But when we go into Afghanistan, we're going to win the hearts and minds and we're going to let everybody vote. But we didn't do anything for the economy.
I don't think it's that simple. It's the economy, stupid. I think that's a Bill Clinton quote. Anyway, I think that South Korea's that's a fucking questionable example because they didn't want to be they didn't want fucking North Korean rule over them. It was like they were anti-communist and they fought with Americans against communism because they were anti-communist. Like Afghans were it's at least it's not a perfect counterexample is all I'm saying because Afghans were at least indifferent to who was in charge of them. They were like, I just want my kids to quit getting killed because somebody has to do all this fucking farm labor. And the South Koreans were that was different.
I'm glad you brought up Bill Clinton because a lot of people don't realize that Bill Clinton had actually bombed, I believe, Al Qaeda targets in Afghanistan in the late 1990s. And that kind of sets up the stage for Al Qaeda to be super pissed and conduct further attacks, which lead into 9/11. So I'm glad you brought that up. All right, yep. Got a little sidetracked there. Anything else we want to talk about for chapter 11?
Yeah, so 1st Battalion, 1st Marines is one of the battalions of 1st Marine Regiment or RCT-1. So RCT-1 was my former unit or the unit that I did that year-long deployment with. And then as far as the intel shop goes, we got back and some guys were getting out. We got a boot drop of new Marines. And then, everybody else was just getting shuffled off to different units. A couple of us wanted to go back, and we found out that 1-1 1st Battalion, 1st Marines is getting an Afghan deployment, and I got sent over there. Um, so I wanted to go to Afghanistan, maybe on an ETT, and even live with like a Afghan army unit or whatever. But things worked out much more in my favor going to 1-1. So instead of changing units, I mean I did change units, but I you know walked out of one door and walked 100 yards to another door, and I was home.
Yeah, lucky for you.
Camp Horno the whole time.
Oh man. Wish I would have got my opportunity, but uh the warlords did not will it.
I talked to my kids a little bit about war and stuff, and my son was asking, "Why did you go back?" It's like, you know what? Dad did war so good the first time. They told me if there's nobody else we can send, we gotta have you back. So that's the lore I'm instilling about his old man.
Also
Started young.
Rambo. That's the plot to Rambo.
Shut up.
Rambo mentioned twice. Wow.
All right, let's move on to chapter 12. I think the highlight of chapter 12 here is where you meet your boyfriend, I mean, best friend, Brendan Clark.
All right, move on. Chapter
Okay.
13.
Yep. I wrap that up.
Okay,
Um,
good look.
Okay, how about this, Dakota? If the war gods were going to grant you war, but you had to have a boyfriend, would you do it?
oh,
They
absolutely.
weren't ever
Uh,
gonna fucking grant him
no,
war.
absolutely. Man, I mean, it was like a heartbreaker just throughout I'm like, I'm gonna be a combat engineer. And like I watched war videos from the Funker videos, you name it. Like I'm just a young kid, like watching combat footage. Like I cannot wait to get my opportunity. I find out I'm gonna be a combat engineer. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to go to war. And then at E school, they're like, we're closing down Iraq. I'm like, I'll probably get to go to Afghanistan. And then I go to Combat Assault Battalion as a combat engineer, and they're like, yeah, the last deployment to Afghanistan left 2 months ago. I'm like, fuck. And then when I got to seventh, they did do a small Afghan deployment, but they took lance corporals only. And I was not a lance corporal. And then what I would have to do to become a lance corporal um, would have definitely ensured I was not going to go to Afghanistan. So it just didn't work out.
You could have just got out and joined the Peshmerga and fought in Syria.
No, because we had a Marine in our fucking platoon who was obsessed with the Peshmerga, and I hated
No
that
way.
dude so much.
Okay.
And Brennan had a lover who was obsessed with them too. If they want to go so bad, they can go fight right now. They're fighting in Aleppo. Y'all go join
Who?
them. Shandog.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Hey, first female psyoper. Shut up, bro. Fuck. We get it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No, I mean, and well, I don't want to derail us, but I
All
think
right,
they're
so
an
chapter
interesting case.
12.
Chapter 12. Um, so you guys are going to embed with the infantry. Um, talk about that a little bit. So here you guys are. You're not the infantry, but you are with the infantry unit. How is it?
Practice a
Uh,
lot of infantry shit. You'd be practicing. You get like a watered down, I don't know, maybe Matt's experience is different. I got like a watered down version of like infantry practices or whatever. Like I did live tissue training and like before we got I think before we got Afghan orders, they were only sending grunts to live tissue like grunts. I don't think corpsmen need it, but anyway,
You're not allowed to talk about it too much.
it's they don't do it anymore. Pretty sure that who the fuck's gonna sue
I
me?
don't know, but you still signed the NDA, didn't you?
12 years ago. I don't think an NDA lasts that long.
Up to you.
Yeah, dude, we kissed a baby pig. We touched the mommy pig. We there was a shotgun involved and a like an AK-40, like a civilian, like a semi-auto AK-47 was involved. We rode a bus. We signed an NDA. I don't care. We fucking practiced making pigs not die, dude. It was good training, but that's not like the infantry battalion doesn't want to waste the money on that to somebody that could leave the infantry. Does that make sense? They're investing in their community when they send infantrymen to that because like you stay in, you re-enlist after one enlistment, you're a grunt that's got live tissue training. Okay, well, you're going to go to your next infantry unit and you're going to use it to save the next infantryman or whatever. They don't want to send it to somebody that's going to go to a fucking radio battalion when he leaves infantry battalion. But because of the nature of our deployment, I got like shortlisted for it. And it was fucking good training. The fact that they recently, like super recently, completely stopped doing that is the stupidest. That is the stupidest thing they could have done with training dollars. Like you can go and shoot a million blank rounds, you can go shoot a million live rounds, you can go throw 100,000 grenades, but the best training I got in the entire time I was in the Marine Corps was live tissue training. There's not even a close second. I did fucking cave and mine reconnaissance training that the government spent money on, and they still probably spend money on that shit. The problem with fighting in a cave is you're fighting in a fucking cave. Like, you're not going to have a good time. Doesn't matter. But live tissue training, dude, my pig survived. Scout's honor, dude.
Until the very end.
Until, yeah, it survived as long as it was good for it to survive. And then the people that were in charge were like, we have to euthanize these pigs. And then they had an AK and a shotgun handy and they gave it medicine instead. And then I was like, what the fuck? What? It costs like 17 cents to put an AK through this thing's face. Like, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
comfortably numb when they go out. But people could be mad about that or whatever. It was good training, but just think about like the amount of roadkill or animals that just go to waste their whole life and are just totally wasted every day. I think that's a pretty good use of an animal, in my opinion.
If they gotta
Uh,
get mad about what happens to pigs at live tissue training, wait till you hear about what me and my buddy Lloyd do to wild pigs.
um,
yeah, so Clark and I took different paths, I guess, to Bravo Company. Um, so I went to 1-1, went into headquarters company, the S2 shop, and then once, we had our unofficial orders to Afghanistan, or and maybe it was so right before the battalion went to enhance Mojave Viper and 29 Palms for our culminating exercise. I was taken, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but my official unit became Bravo Company. So I was an actual member of Bravo Company. So that was pretty cool being, yeah, so I was with Bravo. Um, it didn't take long for me to feel like every other intel guy in the world is just a giant puss. So we were in Mojave Viper. We were in E&B, and with Bravo Company, we're going through our mount towns or whatever the training evolution was, and I had to send my intel summaries every day. Well, I have no, whatever part of the evolution we're in, I have no computer. Nothing like that. So I took a, I had someone drive me in a Humvee over to where the battalion headquarters company was. And Bravo company and every other line company had been in the shit for all of EMV. So we take a Humvee over there, and I walk into the Intel shop or the Intel tent. Ask, okay, the Intel chief has been on my ass about getting him a this Intel summary from this Mount Training Evolution. Where is he? Let me download debrief. And I haven't showered in a couple of weeks, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's back at Camp Wilson or Mainside or something. Like he's going to shower and then going to the PX. He took the van." And so I was infuriated. So I walked over to his desk, and it had a Domino's pizza box on it. So I dumped out his pizza and I wrote the Intel summary on the inside of his pizza box. And he never said anything about that. So he got his int some. But yeah, it didn't take long for me to be like, freaking cool. So yeah, finished EMV with Bravo Company. We had found out at some point that we weren't deploying, and then finished EMV, and then they said, yeah, you guys are deploying the unit before you failed. You guys are taking their deployment. And then how long before our deployment did you come to Bravo, Clark?
After EMV. So like
Okay.
in the first half of EMV, and for the listener or whomever wants to get all like chronological and shit, like word travels at different speeds inside of the unit. So the S2 is going to have a better idea of what the unit is doing next because the S2 has to prepare for that. Like the comm shop might not really know what the fuck is happening next because whatever happens, the comm shop is going to be responsible for fixing broken radios and issuing new radios. Like the 1st Battalion, 1st Marines could be deployed to fucking Mars, and we're going to be working on radios in the comm shop. So like I don't know if we got a delayed sort of a delayed burst on the news, but they didn't tell the comm shop we were going to Afghanistan until week 2.5 of the 4 or 5 week whatever evolution in 29 Palms. Um, and so like I'm pretty sure somebody knew because I made it into live tissue training right before we went to 29 Palms, like right before. And that had previously been turned off for non-infantry. So that's why I think that someone knew, but also like the battalion might have had some idea because they were sending non-infantry to live fucking tissue training. Anyway, they told us, and I mean, we had very little time left in 29 Palms when they told us. And then I got kicked off the deployment for 4 days. And then I got I got kicked off the deployment and sent back to Camp Wilson to be like in the headquarters, like the whatever the comm shop was doing in the rear. All I did was answer the phone and watch the radio. And they're like, "You're not deploying." Like they were mad because I said we got the Afghan like Warno, and we started doing 30-hour cycles for work. So we'd do 10 hours work, 10 hours cross training, and then have 10 hours off. And so the leadership in the comp shop was mad at me because I was like, we did that for like a week. And I was like, you guys are gonna get somebody fucking killed because there's like artillery flying places and dudes doing shit that's dangerous. And they're all fucked up because sometimes your 10 hours of sleep happens in the middle of the day and I don't know, what, April or whatever in 29 Palms, which is fucking hot. It's a hot part of the day. And then I went so far as to be like, it's actually a bad idea because of a thing called a circadian rhythm. And then the comm shop leadership was like, book words? What are we fucking reading now? Circadian rhythm. That sounds like something an insect would do, you piece of shit. They took me off, and then the MO heard about the 30-hour cycle, and then he put them on fucking notice, and then they brought me back on. It was a big, giant mess. I didn't get checked into Bravo Company until, I don't know. I don't know how long we had between coming back from 29 Palms and deploying. It wasn't that long.
No, it wasn't. So we,
I think we came back in the beginning. I think we came back from 29 Palms at the end of May, and we deployed at the end of June.
yeah. So
Somewhere in there.
Bravo or 1-1 had a deployment, and then that was taken away, and then another unit had a deployment, and then we took theirs, and of this shuffling and you're leaving, you're not leaving, you're leaving. This is related to Obama's we're withdrawing timeline and how do we do it? What do we withdraw? What? Yeah, it's just a mess. So we, yes, got a deployment, and then by the time they told us you're actually deploying, it was like 4 days. So we had a pre-deployment 96 to get all of our gear together and leave, get on a plane. Um, but yeah, I liked being with the guys with Bravo Company. I thought it was pretty awesome. They had let me do all the training and all the cool shit in E&B. All the training evolutions and live ranges and all that stuff. So I just made myself useful as far as that. I mean, I don't know how useful you can be at like hour 30 in a back of an Amtrak, but still, it's just there and just trying to make the most of it. Um, and then one day, Clark comes walking into the company office and as saying he's deploying with us, and yeah, I was happy to be there, but just having a non-grunt there too, it's like, oh fuck, this is awesome. Like I'm not going to be alone on the deployment, so to speak. So
Yeah, Matt released his book, and then over on Tumblr, somebody wrote a semi-erotic fanfic of chapter 12. Some username Pogue 69 underscore 420 wrote a semi-erotic fanfic about when we met, and it involved way more kissing than there actually was, which was I thought it was tasteful. I thought it was a tasteful amount of kissing in the semi-erotic fanfic, but the actual reality of it was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm a Marine too. And then it's like, all right, well, it's lunchtime, so let's go do that. And then, well, we'll figure out what all we need to do. And it was like three signatures, and then probably updating my will, and maybe I think we had an argument at the S1, but I don't remember what it was about. I think that you and I were mad at the S1 guy, but I don't remember what about. Um, then we got Piper, not Piper the dog, Piper the lieutenant.
yeah.
And then it's all fucking history from there.
So at what point do you find out that you're going to Kajaki specifically?
That was like the first thing I knew about the deployment from the
Yes.
com leadership in 29 Palms.
So they they said we're deploying and Bravo Company would be going to Kajaki. So a battalion will deploy together and operate the same battle space, but by the time this deployment came, it was the battalions deploying, and then all four companies are going to break up and go off into different battle spaces and have, under different regiments and all that. So we were just told you're going to Kajaki. Um, and we knew for sure right before we left.
So when you find out you're going to Kajaki, were you like doing any research on it? Were you like, oh shit, the Brits had some issues there in 2006 with some landmines, and you're like, man, I hope we don't have some issues with landmines. Or were you trying to like find out as much about it as you could before you went?
Uh, yeah, so when I was in Afghanistan the first time, Kajaki was outside of our AO. It was north of our AO, and Kajaki was a shit show, or it's heavily kinetic. So I knew it was um, just a lot of ass was getting whooped in Kajaki. So because it was out of my AO the first time, I didn't have my, thumb on the pulse. Like I could have told about any other, could have talked to him about Marja, Nawa, Gormser, Trek Nawa, any of that stuff. I mean, I had that shit just ingrained in the back of my head, but Kajaki, I didn't have anything as far as like who would be the village leaders to partner with or how many Taliban are there or nothing like that. I just knew it was a very contested area before we got there.
Pretty rowdy place. They made a movie about it called Kajaki. Have you two seen this movie?
I didn't even know that.
No, I found out today on YouTube,
I
actually.
don't know, fuck, probably.
I guess it's about Green Berets based on a true story about Kajaki. I have a theory of why it was so kinetic. And I'm going to use a little GIS research to prove my theory right. I think Kajaki was so kinetic because they just had a lot of water, and water is pretty scarce. So I think the water attracts the Taliban. Like the more water there is, the more Taliban there are. I could be wrong. That's my theory. Just not a lot of
What
Yeah,
water
so
is
in
the
Afghanistan.
dam was very important. So the Kajaki Dam, I think we talked about it last episode, foreign foreign aid project decades and decades prior to us getting there. Um, So the dam was contested. The Brits wanted control of it. Then when it was Americans' turn to come in, Marines wanted control of it. Taliban wanted control all the way. Um, the Taliban would use water as a murder and intimidation tactic to coerce locals. I'm not going to give you guys water if you don't support us, this type of thing. Taliban were even all the way down to like the sluice gate within a village. They would lock that up and you couldn't touch it unless you wanted to get your arms chopped off type of thing. So they would use they would withhold water, and then the Kajaki Dam being the northern part of Helmand province, all the water south of the dam, so everything that flowed from the dam went to all of the life in Helmand province, and then a very significant majority of the people in the province of Kandahar got their water from the Kajaki Dam.
And the Kajaki Dam was a USAID project, if I'm not mistaken, right?
in its original iteration? Yeah, pretty sure in like 1950s.
And that's where that what do you call it? The resort that the battalion headquarters company operated, which was Fob Zerbruge at the time. That was a resort, an international destination type of thing, 50s, 60s, 70s.
A little off topic here, but as like I'm reading more about Kajaki, looking into it more, trying to understand what you did or what you two did in Helmand, I just keep thinking like we should have blown the dam, flood everything downstream, then all those little villages just get a little trickle of water from whatever that's left, and then basically all of our goals would have been accomplished in Helmand. Easy peasy, but I guess that wouldn't have worked because we had to win the hearts and minds. But blowing that dam and just letting that water go probably would have solved a lot of problems.
I don't know, we should have just cut off the water and the electricity until they acted right, is what I mean. Everything in Helmand electric wise is powered by the dam. And everything that grows downstream of the dam is watered by some fucking tributary or whatever. I guess the tributary is like upstream feeder, but what you know what I'm talking about. Some trickle down economics shit, Reaganomics, FDR, whatever. But we should have used the dam to strangle the insurgency out of Helmand. We didn't, probably because the Taliban had already done some weird shit like that with water.
Yeah, and I guess there's another major river. I forget the name of it, but it also flows into the Helmand River from the north. Seemed like that was also pretty kinetic at different times throughout the war. Not as vital as the Helmand River, though. It's like the life source that you had mentioned earlier, Matt, of Helmand Province. That river is life. It is everything to Helmand. And you're right there, I think, probably at the most important part of that, the Kajaki Dam and then Kajaki, Afghanistan. So let's get into chapter 13. The title of that chapter is Working in Kajaki. First takeaway that I had from this chapter was, Matt, you're basically trying to be involved as much as possible. It seemed like you didn't even had the opportunity to rest. You wanted to be out as much as possible, doing your job and just being basically all you can be. Try to be like a force multiplier to your unit there. And you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, that was a little bit, I mean, I had days off with like you had red air and things like that where just, you couldn't conduct operations, but um, I had a lot of free will to just do whatever I needed to do to get the job done. Um, Squads had so Bravo Company took over a battalion-sized AO. So where what used to be, so within a battalion you have your companies. So what used to be operated or controlled by a company, when it came to Bravo Company, that area was being operated in by a platoon. So it was just fucking difficult to get anywhere. But I had a lot of what do you call it? Just freedom. Just, hey, if you need to go to this area, talk to the squad leader, platoon commander. They'll put you on patrol within that with them, and then just go. So just depending on what intel operations was happening at the time, or what I needed to do, or what the company commander wanted to know, what we're trying to achieve, or village elder we need to talk to. I just, go with these guys or go with those guys. And then also just whenever I wanted to do cool shit and I heard that this squad is going or that platoon, I'd be like, yeah, there's some sort of intel thing I need to do in the area, so you got to take me. So that was pretty sweet. Um, yeah, just a lot of freedom to move around.
And you seem like you're just trying to work as hard as possible against the Taliban. Even though you're tearing down, you still want to stick it to the Taliban as much as possible, and it seemed like you were doing the best that you could. Um, Best that you could just doing that. Question for you, is your background pic for this video, is that from Kajaki?
Yeah, that's from Kajaki. The corn is now above man size, man size, so probably 7 feet right there. Um, which is the fighting season coincides with the fighting season for the Taliban. They can shoot and scoot through that shit pretty good and get away from cameras and things like that. We would lose positive identification with Taliban that would run into a cornfield. It's also good to stage gear, weapons, or put IEDs in the ground and maybe if you want to do a command wire initiation, so if somebody actually pulls the wire, um, cornfield's a good spot to pull it from.
Well, I feel like I would fuck that up. If I was in charge of like putting IEDs, hiding them in the cornfield, I would be like, I put them in the cornfield and I cannot find them for the life of me. Like the Taliban's got that on me. Then, like six weeks later, you're out cutting your corn down and fucking step on your own IED.
Now the corn is I don't know who instituted. They didn't typically grow corn, correct? They would normally be growing poppy, but there was probably some type of initiative for them to grow corn instead of poppy.
I don't know specifically about the corn. Just the crops there were all stuff that they were going to eat. There was no export market, anything like that. But I know we tried to bring in other crops that would that had the highest dollar return per acre or hectare. But I don't ever remember them being corn. But maybe, yeah, corn was an initiative of the US or NATO.
Do you know about it, Brendan?
I don't know. They said that Kajaki was one of the last districts that was like they phased out opium growth in the opium areas of Afghanistan. Kajaki was one of the last districts to be allowed to cultivate it. And I think that had, again, this is all like fuzzy, vague memories of briefs I said in, 12 years ago or whatever, 14 years ago. But um, they had phased it out across the poppy cultivating areas of maybe just Helmand. I think a lot of the information I got was Helmand specific because why the fuck would I care about any other territory, right? But Kajaki was not, they were not supposed to have poppy in 2012 by the time we were there. I think 2011 was their last year to actively grow it. And so like on patrol, there was plenty of poppy from the year prior that had been cut down and stacked. And that was, we talked about that, I don't know, 2 episodes ago probably about the pin flare incident. That was what happened was it pin flare whizzed out when our shout, show, shove, shoot fucking escalation of force antics. Pin flare whizzes out, and it's like a bottle rocket without a tail. So it just kind of does whatever it wants. And it lands on some dickhead's dried poppy, starts it on fire. It's huge fire. It comes to Bravo Company's wire, and he's like, "You burned down my crop." And the company commander's like, "I burned down your poppy. Go away, you wiener. We're not paying you for that." And he went to the battalion main in Fob Bruges and was like, "They burned down my corn." And the battalion gave him money and then called us on the radio and was like, "You guys are fucking up down there." And we're like, "What? We burned his poppy, dude. That's why we didn't give any money." And the battalion like, egg on the face kind of thing. So it may be that they just grew more corn in 2012 than they had prior, but I would imagine anything they can eat, they're probably growing in some quantities.
Did you ever just see some nice looking corn and you're like, shit, I'm gonna put that in my dump pouch and that way we can go back to the fob and cook that up.
No.
No, but I know some Marines were doing that with 7, 8 foot tall marijuana plants.
Bravo 1-1 did not have a huge problem with that. Other units in years prior had a fucking huge problem with that. Like you're not dripping your wiener in a cup to get your piss tested when you're in fucking Kajaki, right? And so like some units historically had taken advantage of that.
But I did see, Poppy on my first deployment. I did some work with some Army PSYOP teams going around to different villages and districts and whatnot, and they would, be just grown, poppy growing. The bulbs had been scored. Some sap was coming out, some wasn't. So this was, active heroin production, but we didn't touch it. And then come second deployment, Kajaki, I don't think I saw any poppy other than the dried stuff. I can't remember seeing any come 2012.
God, the Ozarks from Netflix. That's all I can think about when we're talking about the poppy.
Brain rotted. You're fucking brain
It's
rotted.
a good show though, but like the poppy part is wild. Just drugs there. I don't know what it is. Drugs just grow in shithole countries good. The Lord wills it that way. He's said you ain't gonna grow anything else, but you'll be able to grow drugs here, and
We
they
got
do.
more marijuana in Oklahoma than we have fucking cows right now.
Not back then. You just hear the lore about Afghan weed, as a young man and in America growing up at the time, people might say like, "Oh, I got some Afghan Kush or something like that," and that was like a wild thing. And I'm sure these Marines who grew up in that generation have the opportunity, and they're not squandering the opportunity. I believe that the Marines would be doing stuff. Uh, let's move on from the drugs. You talk about chafing pretty heavily in this chapter, and I
Oh.
have chafed a lot in the Marine Corps, and it sucks. Ain't no way to make your life good when you're chafing. But so you guys had your blast diapers on. I guess that was causing a lot of chafing, right?
Yeah, so I just chafe no matter what, anyways. If I'm going to go on a hike, I'm going to be
Thunder thighs. He's got thunder thighs, dude.
chafing. But that fucking blast, the diaper, the combat diaper, it's a diaper made of Kevlar.
You want me to go get mine? You want me to go get mine? Show it.
Sure.
All right, stand by.
So it's
Keep,
a
yeah, keep going.
diaper made of Kevlar. And I mean, I guess I'm glad I had it, just like all of the gear that's super, super heavy, but meant to protect us. Anyways, when you're walking through canals, chameleon goes off and is like, it starts alerting us there's an IED here. So instead of going across the bridge, we go through the canal, something like that. You get all wet, and then, 2, 3 more hours of a patrol. Yeah, you chafe real bad. Well, my chafing was worse, but most dudes with that combat diaper, you don't have a choice. You just chafe. So it got, let's see this thing.
I have to turn my background off, I think.
No, I think you're good. You got to keep talking so the camera stays focused on you.
Show and tell time. I'm excited.
Sweet ass combat diaper.
I thought
And
yours had a giant brown spot in the middle. What happened with that? Did you switch that out?
I use a Tide to go pin.
No.
Got it all out. Yeah, dude, check
Hold
this
that
thing
up.
out.
Hold that up. I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, you could
Taking
show
a
some
freaking
leg in that thing.
yeah, take this thing and it's freaking. Then you walk around, ow, my balls, for like hours, and it's chafing on a criminal level. Like this side toward the ground. And then
Gooch protection.
this is the actual gooch protector. And they showed us these graphic ass photos and clips of dudes that they're like, this is why you wear your blast boxers, and this is why you wear your freaking chafy diaper. And this dudes, their dicks blown off. So they give us these, I don't know, some type of silk that's been embedded with like colloidal silver for antibacterial protection, like boxers. And then you wear trousers, and then you wear your blast diaper, and then you have your groin protector on your flak over your freaking meat and veg. And then if you step on an IED, the problem is not the explosive force or shrapnel. An IED, it's not generally like a nail bomb, it's generally just an explosion. But the problem is that it sends dirt, micro debris, and it abrades your skin to the point where you get infections and have to get things cut off. And so that's what the blast diaper is for. It's not going to stop you from getting punched in the nuts by an IED, but it's going to stop you from getting skint with dirt, like red hot rock fragments and shit. And the idea is for more super high IQ, high EQ Marines to go back home after deployment and procreate.
Yeah. Yeah, so that diaper is you would chafe for sure. That one on more than one occasion, it had gotten to a point to where I was bleeding through my camis, and I had gotten authorization from our first sergeant to, we had a certain uniform of the day, generally in camis, and I could just walk around in silkies as my uniform for when I was on cop PA.
It
But
was
yeah, it
the
was nasty.
chafing. You get like it's like everywhere on the inside of your thighs that would touch a saddle if you were riding a horse is just covered in blood. And then like 3/4 of the way through the patrol, it's like, all right, well, we got to walk through this fucking wadi up here. You're like, oh, dude, get some cool water on my schnuts. Then you get into the wadi and you're like, why am I on fire? Oh, it's this is full of bacteria or whatever. Like, I don't know how you don't get some communicable infection in your groin from being chafed and going through the wadi. I went through the wadi, chafed as fuck more than once, didn't get any weird skin infections. Could be the reason that Navy corpsmen give you 64 different shots. Not really sure.
Were you guys taking doxycycline while you were there?
We
We
had
were
doxy.
supposed to.
I don't remember if we took it. I know I took it until I had nightmares. And then I think I stopped taking it at some point.
Yeah, I never took it on my second deployment, and I probably took it for like a week of my first deployment. But the iteration on my first deployment was making everybody violently throw up, and this was like projectile vomiting. Not even like, oh, I'm feeling a little queasy. It was just be like, hey, sir, the Taliban, and just shooting out like the Exorcist type thing. So after that, I just stopped taking it, and every month, they come, you got to go get your refill from the corpsman and whatnot. But I just never took it. And then second deployment, it was way too cool for school, so didn't take it either.
There was what, like zero malaria cases in 10 years in Afghanistan. And they're like, take your doxy so you don't get malaria.
Yeah, I was in the brown zone of Kajaki out on patrol and come up to this house that I wanted to investigate, and then there's like spray paint on the door, and it says, everybody, the Turk tells us, everybody in this home died of polio. Don't enter for, like a million Afghan years or something. So I'm sure it's probably just Taliban safe house, but um, yeah, Brent, I guess, had closer call with polio than malaria.
That doxy's no joke. We had to take it, all those countries I went to in Southeast Asia, and they'd make us take it online. And so everybody, the whole platoon has to line up for real. And then the corpsman, you hold out your hand, the corpsman gives you one blue doxycycline, and then by the numbers, everybody put it in your mouth, and then, take a swig of water and then drink it down or whatever. And then the corpsman comes through, looks at everybody's mouth. I took it. Some guys would hide it in their cheek, spit it out or whatever. There were a lot of mosquitoes where I were, and I really didn't want to get malaria. But the doxy nightmare dreams were what I thought was the craziest thing. Like
Those,
people
yeah, so vivid.
sleepwalking and like, you're doing Firewatch and like some dude in your platoon's like just up walking around like sleepwalking. It was crazy. Hell of a drug.
I had the most horrifying, like vivid nightmares thanks to Doxy. There's some people in the mental health community that think that Doxy is that think that like post-traumatic stress symptoms are more related to like a physical reaction in your brain to Doxy than to actual like trauma experienced or whatever. I don't know. I'm not I'm just some bitch. I don't work there. You know what I'm saying? But that was a big topic of conversation like offline when I worked for that mental health group.
It makes you sunburn a lot easier too. Or at least it did me. I think everybody has different side effects, but like I would take it and I would like spend 2 seconds out in the sun and be like immediately roasted. So a lot of my pictures that I have of me being in these countries, I'm like crazy sunburnt because I think the doxy was making me sunburn. Let's move on to a few other topics I want to talk to you about from this chapter. Some of these things might be heavy to talk about. Talk about senseless rules, um, basically preventing you all from doing the best job that you could do. There's several injuries that occur to, I believe this is the chapter where the motorcycle incident happens, correct? Yep. So you're seeing some fucked up shit. And I think the most fucked up thing that happens is what happens to Doc Beecham. And it's talked about a little bit in this chapter. You don't elaborate on the injuries. I think that's a good thing to do. But tell me about Doc Beecham. Who's the man? Who is Doc Beecham? Was he a cool dude? What was he like?
He's so corpsman for Bravo Company's 4th platoon. There was one squad at Patrol Base Shaban. This squad was pushed out, and he was the only corpsman for the squad. Would never let anybody go out on patrol without him. So every single patrol that would go out, I mean, you only have one doc. Doc Beecham was always there with him. We weren't, he and I weren't close in any way. I guess wasn't really too close with many corpsmen anyways, as far as networking would be with squad leaders and, platoon sergeants and stuff like that. But um, I went out to Shaban a couple of times and he's just, you talk about being sunburned. Doc Beecham was sunburned for sure. Just, they took over a compound and it I don't know, 5% of the compound was shaded, so they were just baking and dying in the sun all day long. But yeah, so he would treat locals, take care of Marines, and just always gone, always out. He was just another shooter down there, shooter that also had band-aids for a 4th platoon.
He came to Bravo like right before the deployment as well. Maybe right before EMV, but he was at stationed at Navy Hospital. And they gave him blue side orders and he wanted to go green side, and so he fought like, whatever. You fight the fucking Rage Against the Machine as much as you want, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But he like worked his ass off to get green side orders, gets green side orders and goes to 1-1 for the deployment. And so I think that that's probably says more about his character than like a lot of other secondhand stories that Matt or I would know from his time on Shaban and stuff. Just like obviously this guy, Beecham was about that life. He was blue side and he was like, boo. And it's kind of like Matt and my how we both ended up in Bravo, and I think that's why like it fucked me up probably more than you would think when Beecham was killed, just because it was similar. Like I had my choice of companies to go to. Matt had just came back from Afghanistan, and both of us were able to put in our 2 cents and do our raging against the machine to get Bravo Company through whatever, through specific or through sort of nebulous means. And Beecham's story was the same way. Like I think he was at a Navy hospital in Florida or something, and he was like, "Fuck this! I want to get greenside. I gotta go. I gotta get greenside. Got to get in the fight." So just as soon as he was eligible for orders, I can't remember if he did something to accelerate the eligibility process. You got to be there for like 2 years, or you got to have some other reason to get orders somewhere. But yeah, he was stationed Blueside Navy Hospital and fought tooth and nail to get a Greenside station and got 1-1 out of it.
Corpsmen are usually cool cats. They're like usually hanging out with the lance corporals and stuff. I feel like they're equally as part of that lance corporal underground as anybody. Sometimes they're out of sight, out of mind. Every corpsman I knew too was good at playing spades. I don't know if they learned that at like Navy boot camp or what, but they were always good spades players. And I'm with you, Matt, a little bit. Like I never got super close to corpsmen, but they attach with you. You just get to know them. And then most of the time, you just forget that they're even in the Navy. You just think of them as another Marine at that point. A lot of civilians might not know that, but the Marine Corps does not have medics like the Army has medics. The Marine Corps medics are Navy corpsmen, and they attach to the Marines, and it's a big ask for them. It's a big gear shift there to come from the Navy, and then you're attached to Marines who are always just doing stupid shit, injuring each other, you name it, cutting each other with pocket knives or beating the shit out of each other, and you gotta bandage them up, get too drunk, need an IV in the barracks.
Yep.
Injured by
Yep.
wildlife.
That's pretty common for sure. Good dudes. Um, I hate that about Doc Beecham. I think that's like the biggest tragedy that happened while you guys were in that area of operations. But just the other messed up stuff too. It seemed like you're encountering a lot of just bad shit. It seemed like there's some bad juju just hanging around the area, like with the locals, everybody.
It's called Afghanistan. It is it is sort of a fucking center of gravity for bad juju in 2012.
Well, you
What?
had mentioned earlier some, I don't know if you're going to get there, but you had mentioned earlier about messed up rules. One rule that I don't know if I wrote about, but I don't want to forget about is President Karzai, so the president of Afghanistan, had a list of 12 or 13 rules of this is these are the limitations that he is going to put on the American warfighter. One of which was not being able to operate at night. So we weren't allowed to leave our base, our position at night unless you were, Geneva class 2 or whatever. So if you were a special ops guy, okay. But if you're just a conventional serviceman, you don't have authorization to go out at night. It was an unfair advantage to the Taliban, us having night vision. Uh, it was unfair. So there were a lot of rules like that. We did find ourselves outside at night, so I mean, nobody called mom and told hot dog salesman President Karzai that Bravo company, the fucking Bravo company commander and the intel guy are doing a raid at fucking midnight. Nobody told on us, but yeah, just rules like that just seem ridiculous. It just seems I don't have to explain any more about that specific rule. It's just ridiculous. But you were going to get into something. I didn't want to forget about that.
I think that's important. And some of these rules too, one I believe you talk about in this chapter too, is the child who had been in the motorcycle accident. The brain is out of the body a little bit, parts of it, I think. Skull,
Yeah.
child's not looking too good. Corpsman basically stabilized the child, ready for a medevac, and then the request gets denied. But then you mentioned had that been a Taliban fighter, yeah, that would have probably been approved, no problem. But this request for a medevac for a civilian, that probably would have brought you guys a lot of good karma and gone a long way as far as like a good deed with the local populace was denied. Another stupid rule in the war in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so the kid had um Clark, were we in the COC when they first came up to PA?
I was.
I
I don't
feel
know
like
if
I
I don't
was,
know if
but
you might have been in there doing something, but
yeah, so these
if you
guys,
weren't, I rounded you up immediately because I was
it's
like, oh
it was
fuck,
late
dude.
at night. I don't know, 8 p.m. or something like that, and guy comes up with his kid or his little brother in a wheelbarrow, and the kid had been in an accident. He was riding a motorcycle with his other brothers and fell off, split his skull open. His brains were, parts of it were sticking out. I'm sure some were left on the road. But anyway, so they come to the inside the COC, not the COC, inside the battalion aid station or company aid station, little aid tent, and docs are doing everything they could to stabilize the kid. I was trying to get intel from the brother, like first trying to figure out what happened. Was this Taliban related or what's going on here? And um, then trying to just get intel from the brother about Taliban in the area. Kind of, being pretty shitty, kind of making it seem coercive, like, hey, I need some info so we can help out here, that type of thing. So the story goes, the kid was riding the motorcycle, falls off. The dad was out at a wedding and was partying. And finally, somehow, we'd send the older brother, go get your dad, bring him up here. The docs had said, look, they stuffed the brain back in as much as possible. They stapled his skull shut and said he's got to get a higher level of care. Um, I think they at this point, Clark, you are calling in the medevac.
Yeah, so we had given up like the first three lines to the nine line, and so the helicopter is like en route. Okay, and so I'm down in our like hasty HLZ helicopter landing zone. I got an IR cam light attached to some 550 cord. Got my IR buzz saw. This is our marking for our HLZ landing. The helicopter got to where we could hear it. I don't think we ever saw it, but got to where we could hear it, and then it got to where we couldn't hear it anymore. And so I'm like, yeah, hey, COC, this is freaking Nighthawk, like what happened or whatever. And then there's this confusion, but I think I had Eddie with me. And I was like, Eddie, run up to the COC, see what the heck's going on. So Eddie comes back. I'm pretty sure Eddie went up to the COC and got told like the helicopter's not coming and then just was fucking around. Cause I was down there forever, like, dude, where's Eddie? And then he comes back and he's like, yeah, the helicopter's not coming. They're not gonna medevac this. And I'm like, thank you for 1 hour and 30 minutes later informing me. So I go back up to COC. The kid's dad had told his older cousins and his older brother were watching him while I guess the dad, probably the mom, were like at a wedding. Who knows, maybe 15 kilometers up the road or whatever, and had told him like stay off the motorcycle. And so they were riding the motorcycle. Like the thing is, okay, this is super humanizing for the Afghans to me because abso-fucking-lutely, like stay off the three-wheeler as soon as mom and dad are gone, dude. I'm turning the key on this thing, right? So like stay off the motorcycle, and the kid, got going too fast or he jumped over a berm or whatever, spills the beans, crushes fucking head on fucking rock or whatever, and comes to us. But the dad, like I think they sent one cousin to go to the wedding and tell the dad, and then the other cousins to bring the newly permanently maimed and disabled Afghan local to our wire. And so like later the other cousin shows up and he's like, the dad doesn't care. The dad's literal, the actual verbatim quote that the Terp gave us was that the dad said he had five other sons, and this one wasn't even one of his older sons. He's got five older sons than this one. So he's like, I don't even care. I told him not to ride the motorcycle. He gets what he gets. And so the only reason that the kid had any chance, because we were like, you got to get to higher echelon of medical care. The helicopter's not coming to get you. They were super disappointed about that with good reason. But the only reason that the kid got traveled across district lines overnight, which is a Taliban no-no, was because the kid was betrothed to some other family's daughter. And they're like, we got to marry off our daughter. And this kid's family has a bunch of sheep or whatever, like seven sheep and a mule. We got to get her married off. And so the future in-laws showed up in a vehicle that they borrowed from someone else. And they chucked this semi-conscious, semi-coherent youth into the back seat of this like fucking 1984 Pontiac or whatever they had. You know, I don't know, it was probably some Soviet rig. And they were able to travel to Sangin, I think, to go to a hospital.
Lashkar. So they were, yeah, so I guess walk it back a little bit. So the kid is in the aid station. I mean, the screams on this kid, it was wild. I didn't understand how someone could be in that much pain and still be conscious, but he was, it was just super visceral. Him screaming as much as it was, as loud as it was, the pain and whatnot. The helicopter doesn't land, doesn't finish coming and land because we didn't hurt the kid. And the war's drawing down, not enough resources, so they're not going to medevac this kid.
Not enough resources is fucking bullshit. Not
Yeah.
enough resources is the most made up thing. It's one of the made up things of all time. Like not enough resources, dude. They took the kid to Lashkar and fucking stapled him up.
So Doc Schultz stapled his head shut and wrapped him up with a bandage, and the kid had passed out when he started stapling his whatever was left of the skull. Put pieces back and hair flaps and just stapling everything shut, saying the kid's not, just let him die or whatever. We're not giving him aid. Company commander wasn't cool with that. Doc Schultz wasn't cool with that. So more time goes and a vehicle, the in-laws or whatever come up with a borrowed vehicle and they tell the company commander, we can't go to Lashkar. We don't even have money for fuel to get there. Company commander authorizes some of the Afghan money. As soon as it all began, it ended with them driving away from the cop, with them on a Afghan dirt roads in the middle of the night, driving 4 hours to Lashkar.
There was a postscript because they came back.
They came back.
They came back like 10 or 12 days later. Like, can you take the staples out of his head?
Yeah, he came back and kid made it. He's
He was
survived.
fucking alive, dude. He survived that shit. Me and Matt were like, what? What's this kid made out of?
And now he's
So
probably a really good Taliban lieutenant.
He probably went to college and graduated and has a 401k and shit now.
and that kid was Malala. Just kidding. So yeah, I had brought that story up as to explain the fucked up rules with a little bit later. Clark's whipping around IR chem light because a Taliban dude blows himself up putting a IED in the ground.
You're allowed to laugh at this story, by the way.
So what do you call it? The medevacs came for the Taliban because, the rules of war, we have to uh, render aid to the people that kill us.
Dude, in a serious world, they would have got that Taliban to like 8,000 feet and been like, ugh, tossed him out the fucking door. Like he's out in placing an IED to blow up Bravo. Dude, you guys are already done so much of that. Can you take a fucking day off? And he boofs it and he gets fucking medevaced for his troubles. They should have just tossed his ass out the door.
They should have, daisy changed some claymores, which is, I guess, was also a major, major no-no. You got to get a general to sign off on your use of a claymore in a war that is being dominated by IEDs. Um, should have put a bunch of like claymores around his body. That way, when the Taliban came back to like get the parts, because they're not caring about that guy for sure, but the IED parts that he was probably put in the ground, I'm sure they cared about. And then you like nail him with the claymore.
No, we
The
have
rules.
rules. We fight a gentlemanly war, dadgummit.
Yeah, how can we nation build if we're doing that kind of stuff? Totally counterproductive to nation building.
Break, break, break. Time for a 5-minute gear check, boys. This would be a good time for you to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and we would really appreciate it. Don't forget that we want to interview veterans, so reach out to us if you want to have your service documented. Let other veterans know too. You guys can use the comment section, our socials, or the podcast email. Find us and follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and Substack. And go buy yourself a copy of War Business, The Hired Guns of Helmand Province. You can buy that on Amazon or through the Wargate store. If reading isn't your forte, then we've got you covered with the audiobook. Thank you for listening to this episode of the War Business Podcast, and we appreciate all of your support. Let's get you back to the episode.
So it seemed like Kajaki was pretty rough. A little thought exercise for you two. I want you to say one good thing each about Kajaki.
I will say that the 2012 1-1 OEF, the fucking 14 or whatever deployment that it was not about winning the war. It was about the friends we made along the way.
I don't think that really counts as a good thing about Kajaki.
Oh shit, my bad. I watched all the seasons of Dexter. I got to watch all the seasons of Dexter when I was busy laying awake at night because it's impossible to sleep when you constantly think you're fucking gonna get overran.
I'll allow it. Matt?
Only had to see one woman in my time in Kajaki, and that was after we killed her son. But other than that,
That's not true, dude. Looper was there like 4 times.
I don't know if I ever saw. I think I saw Looper come in with the PX truck, but I was talking about Afghan women.
Were the mountains at least pretty? I mean, from what I'm seeing, of some of these Brits operating in Kajaki before y'all got there, it looked scenic at least, It seemed
No, you're not looking
seemed
at the
nice.
mountains unless you're taking fire from the mountains. You're looking at the fucking ground so you
No,
don't
no, no.
step on a
That's fair. I
pressure
mean,
plate,
but
bro.
like, were you ever just sitting in Cott, Pennsylvania? You're like, you know what? Maybe in a different life, um, before this became an absolute hellhole, like it's kind of decent here.
Before
Yeah, for
Alexander
sure.
the Great came through, this place was probably rocking.
Yeah, like 2,000 years ago, like probably decent place.
Yeah, Kajaki, because of the mountains for sure. Yeah, it was nice. It was very scenic. I mean, it's I don't know, you have like shale rock or canal dried up wadis, things like that. So it's not like, oh wow, I should I want to winter here during, cold months. It's nothing like that, but just aesthetically there's something to it. It's nice to look at. Geographically, it could be nice.
Okay. Sorry for putting y'all through that. Just a little change of gears. They say that's good to do when you hate something a lot, that you got to say something good about it. Um,
You know what? You fucking changed my mind, dude. I think I want to join the Taliban. I think I'm gonna go
Tight.
back.
That's fucking tight. That's a sick idea.
If you guys went, you could finally get M4s.
Holy shit.
get to ride in a Blackhawk finally. Those are
I
pretty
wouldn't.
nice.
The Taliban was like, "Hey man, you want to ride on our Blackhawk?" I'll be like, "No, not today, bro. Next time."
The videos after they had captured everything in Kabul, where they're like whipping out the Black Hawk for the first time and like obviously don't know how to fly. It's like taking off like backwards. You're like, oh my God. Wild.
I
Um,
can't imagine like, like you come up on a tractor, like I'll figure it out as I go. Like I fuck with the knobs, and if I tear the transmission out, it's not even my tractor. Why would you ever think that about a helicopter? Like I'll figure it out as I go. You get off the ground in that bastard, just a fucking rotor spinning fast enough to get you off the ground, you do something wrong and it's over. It's done. You're a martyr.
I think it was important for them because they needed to start throwing all the people that worked in the Afghan government out of the Black Hawk, where everybody in Kabul could see them throwing all those people out of the Black Hawk.
It's crazy how much me and the Taliban agree on some things. We totally disagree on others, but that's one that we're on the same page about.
This part, and I don't want to derail us too much, but when we were going to all these other countries, it was a big no-no for Marines to give away your uniform. And occasionally you'd see it like happen off in the distance, like a guy like really wants like a Thai Marine uniform. So you go to the PX and you buy like extra cami top, extra cami bottom, and then you trade it with foreign forces so you can like add it to your collection. I had a buddy who was interested in like collecting all these other military's uniforms, but it's a big no-no. They don't want you to do that. That way people can't basically be imposters and pretend to be Marines and do some like blue on green or some wild attack. But I'll watch videos coming out of Afghanistan now, and like the Taliban are rocking like Marpat tops, Marpat bottoms. Really fucked that one up. Not as in we, our government fucked that one up big time.
We weren't even supposed to put our uniforms in the burn pits. We were supposed to pack them out if they were trashed to avoid that outcome.
They're kidding
When
now though.
when we
So
were there, it was OG Taliban, like man dress, sandals, duct tape on the AK-47. And then now, yeah, they definitely have the Marpat. I understand how you would say something like, don't give your uniform, don't go trade your green frog USMC flame retardant operations gear top with that Taliban for his man dress, but the Afghan army, that's who would be, able to what do you call it, be the imposter. They could just trade or whatever, and we would think, oh, this guy has a beard, he smells like death. Yeah, sure, let him in. That's a regular Afghan soldier, but he could have been Taliban. We'd have no way to know either way.
And then the reason that they're all donked out now is because we left $90 billion worth of shit in fucking quad-con containers or whatever, half cons, Connex boxes across
That's really what's
Afghanistan.
just accounted for.
Billion.
Yeah.
I saw a video of a guy in the Taliban, and he has an ACOG, and then in front of his ACOG, he has a holographic sight. So I think they got too much gear, more gear than they I know what to do with. They're kitted up now for sure. And the blue on green attacks too, as time progresses in Afghanistan, when you start looking at mass casualty incidences in combat, or like people killing each other in Afghanistan, there's like a transition after the first few years from like firefights and helicopter crashes to where you start to get a lot of this green on blue in Afghanistan. I think they killed a major general that way, if I'm not mistaken, who was the highest ranking loss of the Afghan war, was killed in an attack like that.
Yeah. Blue on green being a friendly force killing an American, so the Afghan forces.
Yeah, that seemed to be the trend as the war progresses. All right, well, let's move on to chapter 14. The name of that chapter is Patrol Base Boldak. Forgive me, listener, I am retarded. So I said Bolvac probably 36 times in the earlier episodes, but it is Boldak. So just wanted to correct that now. So chapter 14, Patrol Base Boldak, wasn't planned. It's not like Kajaki. You knew you were going to go to Kajaki, but you didn't know you were going to go to Boldak. You want to elaborate on that map?
Sure. So we had left Kajaki on September 7th, 2012. Um, September 11th or maybe September 12th, 2012, the Taliban attacks Camp Bastion, which is co-located with Camp Leatherneck. And as a result of that attack, Bravo Company or some of Bravo Company gets extended um, for 90-ish days. And I think about 90, 100 or something like that of the company has to stay. And then 12 of us get pushed out to patrol base Boldak. So a squad of Marines go to patrol base Boldak. We talked a lot about that Camp Bastion attack in episode 1 of the book series. So basically, we were kind of like a stopgap, just something to fit the NATO's planning holes of like, hey, we just need some bodies for this area, and Bravo Company got the short end of the stick. Um, Clark, you want to elaborate on anything about why we stayed?
We stayed because Marines and CENTCOM commanders were like, no, Pentagon, we have to have more dudes. We lost 8 Harriers and a C-130. We have to have more dudes. And the White House was like, not too many more dudes. So you can have like 130. And then somehow, out of the 8.5 fucking billion assholes on the planet, me and Matt are two of the 130 that get stuck in Afghanistan for what was originally an indeterminate amount of time. It was originally an indefinite deployment as brief to us, or I mean, an indefinite extension as brief to us, which doesn't mean you're going to live in Afghanistan forever. It just means they don't know when you're going to quit living in Afghanistan because there was a ton of negotiations and they finally came up with the 90-day number. There was a ton of like military leadership, Pentagon to RCT 6, Pentagon to White House, White House to Pentagon, Pentagon to RCT 6 negotiations that determined that 90-day number. It was really just because they didn't like us. So the attack was, I just looked it up, it was September 14th. So bear in mind, on September 11th, 2012, the embassy in Benghazi or the consulate or whatever in Benghazi had gotten tuned up. And that was huge international news. So 3 days later, some dudes get fucked up in Afghanistan. This is not breaking news. And like with again, we talked about in a previous episode with Obama's re-election campaign hinging on the fact that we're going to leave Afghanistan. Super convenient timing. Like, thank God that happened after the Benghazi thing, because now we don't have to hear about that. Super convenient for everybody but Hillary Clinton, because she did later have to hear about that more. But she had some hot quotes come out of those depositions.
So we have to stay, but let me throw the extension into perspective a little bit. So this happened the attack on Bastion happened the night before we were getting on an airplane to head home. So the battalion heads home, a whole platoon from Bravo Company heads home, and then some of us have to call home and like, hey son, hey 6-year-old, I know you can't wait to see me. Getting on a plane tomorrow. Just kidding. No, I'm not. Dad's not coming home. I don't know when I'm coming home. Or Marines calling home and telling their wives, like, hey, see if you can get any money back for this post-deployment vacation we had planned, airplane tickets for whatever. Just all this, everything like that gets canked, and then we're in limbo for a while. It's like we're not coming home, and we don't know when we're coming home. Could be 2 weeks, could be 6 months, whatever. But um, everybody leaves your deployment. You're all excited to come home, and you have XYZ planned with your wives and all your deployment money, um, and then that just gets taken away real quick.
I've seen morale be pretty low before. How low is morale when you find this out that I'm not going home? I'm currently extended for indefinite days in my favorite country on earth. Kidding. It probably least favorite, obviously. So what's morale looking like in the unit when you find this out?
The company commander was slamming some doors. That definitely happened. Um, but I guess morale got pretty low just because there was some talk about us, that where Patrol Base Boldak was, it had something to do with the flight path for Prince Harry's helicopters, and that's one reason, like his approach for when he comes to land or whatever. So that it was in my head, and at least the guys on Boldak, that we're gonna get blown up a whole bunch because Prince Harry has yet to marry Meghan Markle. Um, so yeah, that was kind of shitty. And then, I mean, I guess I'm not the most proud of it, but there was some times when the lieutenant would come up to me and say, "It's probably time to shave now." So yeah, morale got a bit low.
There was multiple Kevlars being thrown, Kevlar helmets being thrown for days. Um, and if you know, you know, but Marines don't tend to abuse their Kevlars unless it's in a fit of extreme rage. And there was a fucking lot of that.
Yeah, I could only imagine. It's like the ultimate green weenie, and then you're doing shit in y'all's opinion to protect Prince Harry, basically. Hard would be hard for the morale to be there, but you do it for each other. I know you guys stayed, you did it for each other for at that point, and I'd say most of everything that Marines do, it's not really about like the greater mission. You're basically just doing it for the guy to the left and to the right of you.
Mm-mm.
Um,
No, I've always been a very serious Anglophile. The royal family has always been my fucking autistic fucking topic of interest.
and listen to that's sarcasm for sure. I don't think any of us give a single fuck about the royal family at all.
Yeah, I couldn't
Uh,
care less. I could not care less. Like, oh my God, come on, guys. I got when whenever the Queen untimely passed away, we found out about it while I was at work when I worked for Congress, And I was like, who fucking cares? And oddly, the entire office was like, we care. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Why do you care?
I'm just too American to give a single fuck about a king or a
I'm
queen, especially if they come
real.
from England. It blows my mind that people are so obsessed with them. Sidetrack, and then I have a question that relates. But my favorite thing is when, and I watch a lot of football. I love it when the NFL goes and plays the London game, and then they'll do like the British national anthem, where it's like "God save the King or Queen." I think it changes. I don't really care that much. And then it's like our national anthem, like bombs like bursting in air, basically like a big fuck you to Britain. Um, it just makes my heart happy as an American. I don't give a fuck about their king or queen or prince, whoever the fuck. Prince Harry, I'm pretty sure, is the son of the horse trainer. Um, we could get into that, we don't have to, but dude looks a lot like the horse trainer. I mean, just saying, you don't really look like anybody else, but he looks like the horse trainer a whole lot. All right, the question that pertains. The British are there. You're working with them a little bit here and there, maybe more at different times. What's your opinion of the British troops?
My first deployment, I got in trouble. I told a Australian warrant officer to go fuck himself. And I mean, they're like Brits, I guess, kind of. So I guess that's how I feel about the Brits, but I don't think we work too much. I didn't work with the Brits at all in Kajaki, but I did have to work with some British sniper teams in Patrol Base Boldak. And that did not go well at all. Um, so I not I wasn't impressed.
I
I th
worked on Camp Bastion for fucking 3 days or something. When we got extended, we had to send a liaison to the Joint Operations Center that was located on Camp Bastion. And 3 days. I was like, I'm not fucking going back. We got to send one of the boots or something because that is heinous over there. And the real reason was because of the gunny that I was working with. Like that guy could fucking make anything stressful. He's from like 11th Marines or something. Some arty gunny, just way too weird about his office full of phones that he worked in. But the secondary reason, kind of the personal reason that I did not want to work on Bastion anymore was because the American shitters were gross. The American shitters smelled bad, but the British shitters was offensive. It was, I don't know, I'm serious. I don't know what it was. Like, I don't know if it was something in their MREs or whatever they got, like their rations or what could possibly explain this, but they were fucking foul.
It's interesting that you all get to work with them. And from what I've done research wise for Kajaki, the Brits had a lot to do with Kajaki for a long time. For like 3 or 4 years, they're there. They somehow got into the minefield in 2006, and then the Americans had to come save them. Um, I blame, and I got to work with them a little bit. Um, I would say the thing I liked is they were allowed to do steroids. You do not get kicked out of their military if you do steroids. So the British or Royal Marines that we worked with a little bit in 29 Palms were just fucking jacked. They just did a bunch of steroids and worked out all the time. And it made for an interesting interaction when one of the infantry Marines stole their battle colors or whatever, like their guidon that they had taken to like Afghanistan like 7 times and all this, and they never got it back. And they were very upset, but it's hard to take them serious when they're like really mad because their like accent is really funny. So, like they come into every fucking case, man, like screaming about it, and like nobody can take them. Like everybody's just laughing because it's funny. But they shouldn't have left it outside. Like you don't leave anything that can be stolen. You got to watch everything. A Marine's going to steal anything just because they can steal it. Like salt and pepper shakers. Like, why are you stealing the salt and pepper shakers from McDonald's in Hong Kong? Like, they're just stealing shit all the time.
The amount of shit stolen from Chipotle in Fallbrook, I can't believe that Chipotle ever has any fucking Tabasco at all. I've walked out of that Chipotle in Fallbrook with a Tabasco in my pocket. I mean, I'm not above it.
That whole franchise was just a loss leader. They're gonna put that around the Marines. That's their fault. Like we're just gonna write this off, and don't worry about the E. coli. They'll be all right.
That's fine. Don't worry about you're eating corporate slop. Don't worry about your corporate slop bowl giving you E. coli. Here it's $26.
Maybe you all feel the same, but I will say out of all the foreign militaries I ever got to interact with, the Brits did seem the second most capable, like behind us, a good distance away, like we're in first place, like on a first place podium. And then like quite a few steps down, not really steps, but a ways down, you got the Brits. And then everybody else is like, you can't even see them. They're so far low. There might be a third place down there somewhere. Y'all feel the same? Think that they were better than others, but not better than us?
I didn't get to watch any other military operate or even train or anything like that other than the Brits. So they're the only ones that I could stack up. But from the point you're driving home, yeah, I would probably say they're up there.
And
They're the closest second, but not a close second.
my read was that they were oddly professional, like weirdly professional. But the Aussies that I worked with later on in life were oddly capable, but just extremely unprofessional. The Aussies, like, they don't give a fuck. There's some Aussie Lance Corporal that's been in for like 20 years. He's like, oh yeah, I don't care. Whenever like the Aussie Sergeant Major or whatever is talking to him, he's like, oh fucking cunt, I don't care. And like, I don't think that would ever fly in the British military, and that would never fly in the Marine Corps. But the Aussies were also like super capable. They're like talking, complaining the entire time they work, but then their product is head and shoulders above whatever like 2x4s my Marines nailed together backwards when I worked with them. I don't know.
The Aussies are road dogs too, like throughout American military history. They've been there for us when some of our better allies and some of our closer allies, I guess, left us high and dry. The Aussies were there. Um, and the Marine Corps in Australia always have like that close relationship because of Guadalcanal. Um, yeah. I will say this though, I thought it was hard to take the British serious because they had stupid bullpup rifles, and I was just hard to take that serious.
They got what they had at the time, the L-85s. The Aussies had AUGs when I worked with them, and they were They were like on the fence. They were like, this is a good rifle, this is a bad rifle. I was just like, let me touch it, dude. I've never touched one of those before.
The Indonesians, or no, the Indonesians had Galils, and then some of the Malaysians had Ogs. And they look cool, but I like knew even back then, like bullpup kind of just um, reload them awkward. All right. Well, I want to continue on with tradition here. Matt, can you say one good thing about Bowl Deck?
Don't really have anything good to say, and it's not because I'm trying to be nasty. I guess a couple of people were nice when they gave me some tea, but probably had yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of people were hospitable.
All right, we'll take it. That was all the questions I had for you for chapter 14, Patrol Base Bowl Deck. You want to elaborate on some more stuff from that chapter?
So to wrap up Boldak, I know we talked a lot about it in the episode with chapter one, since I started the book with my time at Boldak. Um, this is the place that just did me in for a while. Clark, do you remember us or using Facebook Messenger or Facebook messages at the time, talking while I was out at Boldak?
No, no, zero
So
recollection of that. I tried to forget all about Facebook.
yeah, so earlier in the episode, you asked like, what's it like to be around grunts and stuff? So I was just cracking out there a little bit, just, coming undone. And I don't think, whatever, I had used Facebook and I messaged Clark and was like, this is getting real shitty out here. And I don't know the extent of the conversation, but that was like as much as I did of a mm, reaching out type of thing. And she's like, "Oh fuck, this place is wild." So yeah, Boldak, as I write it or as I wrote it, Boldak broke me. No, Bolvac broke me. Um, but I am super grateful for the experience at Boldak. So I think, like Dakota, what you regret not having been able to deploy or just upset about not being able to deploy. I think there's something inside all men that just want adventure. That's part of being a man. Um, so just being at Boldak, I got everything I wanted from the Marine Corps. I got what I wanted from life. I wanted all that. I wanted that test, and that was it. So I could say from Boldak, it was a gift in that when it came down to die or not, I chose death. Obviously, I didn't die, but I was at that point in um, the deployment to where it was looking like I was probably gonna die, should have died or whatnot. So when things came to it, I stayed in the fight, I guess. And yeah, I'm just grateful for that experience on a personal level, just to be able to feel fulfilled.
I guess you get what you ask for.
It's
And,
rare in the Marine Corps, but yeah.
yep. And who knows? I mean, you can always be like, I wish I could have done that. I think everything works out in the long run. It did for me. Got a wife, kid, good house, good job. So didn't get my chance for a combat deployment. Did get to see some other countries, some unique opportunities, even for my time in the Marine Corps. So I guess it all worked out. I'm glad you got what you wanted from the Marine Corps, though. And this is a good transition, I think, into the next chapter, chapter 15. Title of that chapter is called Coming Home Again, because not your first time. Things are a little bit different now because you have had your taste. I think you are beyond satisfied. I think maybe once you get blown up 3 times, you're probably beyond satisfied. with what you wanted, and you got it. Lucky to survive. I mean, really getting blown up 3 times, even despite like the TBIs and stuff, like you fared well. You were still able to write a book. Um, could have been worse. You know, you could have lost limbs. You did lose teeth, correct?
Yeah. Oddly enough, that was from the second explosion where we hit the mine roller, which just only took out a couple of the 12 tires from the mine roller, but also molars.
It just shoots you up so hard that your jaw hit your other jaw and it broke your
It must
teeth.
have been just, yeah, just clenched down real tight, or maybe they got fucked up from the first time and set that one kind of did it in.
So did you have teeth injury on top of chafing too?
Yeah, freaking.
Fuck. That's brutal, man. That'll make you want to go home for sure. Damn. So like your teeth are all fucked up and you get blown up, I believe, 5 days later again.
Yeah.
Yep. So like for those 5 days, are you just like super fucking miserable because your teeth are all fucked up and sensitive?
No, it was just like uh chips coming off the molar, like bits of molar, and then that tooth just got pulled later. So it's
Okay.
just whatever. It wasn't like exposed roots, nerves.
It still feels weird when your teeth get chipped though. Like your tongue's
Oh,
always like,
oh yeah.
yeah, like tasting. I got
Yeah.
in a fight one time in college and I was whooping the hell out of this guy and his girlfriend came and started stomping on my head and it chipped a bunch of my teeth and like you're always feeling you're like, God damn it. Why did I get that fixed?
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
realize how much your teeth are used for speech and whatnot until you're saying a word and it's like, why am I poking that part of my tooth every time I use, say, an S or something like that?
Yeah. Weird coincidence. All three of us have at some point sustained teeth injuries.
Toothal injuries should be the name of the podcast, but
Yep. Yours
guess
is
not.
definitely the most serious. Brendan's is by far the funniest. The tooth shit is, I mean, Trailer Park Clark, that's comedy
Ruthless,
gold.
toothless, come on.
Yeah.
As
Shit.
soon as we were done, I told my wife about that. But anyways,
I
Yeah.
had years of fucking shame and pain. Years of fucking shame and pain. I had a bone graft. It was awful.
yeah, I think probably obviously it's a whole shitty story, but I think the funniest thing that I take away from it is I don't know, I would get yelled at because I didn't have a cover on outside or something stupid like that, benign like that, and then your leadership is screaming to for you to put your tooth back in or stop flipping your tooth around.
Fucking weekly. Weekly. Like, where's your fucking tooth, Clark? Like, I don't know. My corporal broke my fake tooth.
Yeah.
'Cause he's being a dickhead.
Did you have Navy Dental work on your shit, Matt?
Yeah.
Well, I know you
Oh,
did, Brendan. I know you
sorry. My
did.
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, Navy Dental. I had good experiences with Navy Dental. I
They
don't
were
know if,
better in Afghanistan than the what do you call it, wisdom tooth I had extracted on Pendleton.
oh, they yanked mine in boot camp. Two of them in boot camp, then two in Okies, and then yeah, those hydros are a
I had
valuable
gotten
commodity.
so I got punched in the face and had busted open like my lip, and this was like 2 days before we went to Bridgeport for my first deployment or my first unit, first duty station. So when I went there to go get my lip sewn up, uh, the doctor, the Navy surgeon, Navy dental dentist guy, uh, tooth guy, was like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna pull your wisdom tooth while we're in here." And it was like a fucking veterinary clinic, so they just laid me back. They put a heavy blanket over my face, over my eyes, like this is gonna calm you down. And then they're freaking hammering away. Anyways, yeah, it was yeah, old school. And then 48 hours later, I was in Bridgeport. And they're like, "Yeah, don't chew, don't smoke, don't do anything that's gonna give you dry socket."
Dry socket's a myth, dude. It's not even
I think
real.
so too. I think so too.
They
Us
told me
dipping
that.
Grizz.
They told me that when I got this thing pulled out. They told me that when they took my wisdom teeth out. It's a freaking huffing darts, dude.
I love that about the Marine Corps, though. You show up with your wisdom teeth and they're gone. The Navy's going to make sure that you do not have wisdom teeth.
So that tooth that I did have to get pulled out, I had I don't know what you call it, but a wisdom tooth that is stuck or not stuck, but it never grew through. It was just up in your gums, up in your jaw. When they pulled that molar out, the wisdom tooth just dropped into place.
So your wisdom tooth replaced that back molar?
Yeah. I mean, there's a gap there, but dropped. So it was always inside, and then once that tooth came out, that wisdom tooth came down.
It's a Christmas miracle. Your body
Yeah.
did a good job on that. I had bit into a fork one time on the Mew, like a metal fork, and it fucked up my front tooth. And then on the Mew, they have dental. So I went on to dentist on ship, and she hooked me up. Navy dental, always having to go. Navy's going to make sure the Marines have the best teeth as possible, despite all that grizzly wintergreen and cigarettes and energy drinks full of sugar. I think it was like every 6 months they always made us go for an appointment. You're like, I was kind of looking forward to it. I was like, hell yeah, I got to go to dental. I'll be out all day. I'm going to stop by the PX. I think we'll wrap it up with chapter 15. Anything we want to elaborate on chapter 14 before we move on to chapter 15?
14 being Boldak, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just last thing would be those British snipers. So when we were doing Operation Bullet Sponge, we brought where I was out to go be the bait, and then Operation Bullet Sponge 2. But on Bullet Sponge 1, we brought the British sniper team. So since we could not call for fire or anything like that into where the Taliban sniper was operating out of, which was a British box, brought the British snipers out there. Um, do a little bit of deception, going out on patrol, and then inserting the two different sniper teams. Well, as I'm pinned down in a compound by myself and the Taliban sniper is shooting, one British sniper team could not see because they had put themselves into a compound where another compound was obstructing their field of view. And then the second British sniper team could not see the Taliban sniper because that team was facing 180 degrees in the wrong direction. That's how I feel about the Brits, but we can move on.
Sure, it won't be the last time we talk about them. All right, so chapter 15, the title of that chapter is Coming Home Again. You basically say you had enough. Um,
Yeah,
you've
for the
had,
most part. So I
yeah,
had like unraveling in Boldak, but you could, my hackles can were let down when I came back, and then so Bravo Company was on that extension, and so we come back to the battalion and we find out that Bravo Company is now slated to go to Syria in a few months. So F that, or maybe Yemen or Libya or something. I don't know. I think it was Yemen actually.
oh God, on to the next shithole of the Middle East. I don't know. Yemen could be worse than Afghanistan. I mean, that's as far as two of the worst countries on earth go. I mean, they got to be like neck and neck in that race. I don't blame you there. So you talk about being in rough shape. I think the mental part is obviously implied. Not so much the physical part. Were you also in like rough shape physically? Like I know you had sustained some injuries, but also what was your physical condition like when you got back?
I had have back issues, and so like herniated disc, my L5 S1, carrying anything was a fucking nightmare. Still is, but so back was messed up, knees were, just painful from, you know, running around in body armor and 100 pounds of shit for 500 days. Um, and then just back-to-back deployments like that. Not a lot of sleep on that first deployment, just wearing myself down and then going back to Kajaki. Kajaki is rough on just the terrain out there sucks. So just rough on all your joints and everything like that. And then I had some breathing issues that started on my first deployment. They got really bad on the second deployment. Just yeah, not being able to breathe. Um, Even now, it's weird. It's like my VO2 max just goes out the window extremely fast, so I can lift 10-pound weight 10 times, or I can lift a 40-pound weight 10 times, and I'll be the same amount of out of breath by both exercises. But so it's my breathing was messed up for sure. Um, so yeah, back breathing and then achy joints, but the real issues were my back and respiratory issues.
Well, the breathing stuff, that's why you don't huff gasoline with the infantrymen.
Yeah,
It's
do
gonna
not.
get you every time. It's fun in the moment, but then the rest of your life you got to deal with it.
He's burying the real lead. Achy breaky heart syndrome. He can no longer do any line dances. He's allergic to line dancing, to include all of Billy Ray Cyrus's greatest hits.
Who was that? Who was the sergeant that cross-decked to the Army Little Bird program where they're taking Marine E5s? But do you just know who I'm talking about? So he
Yeah.
was a squad leader. I think it was first platoon. Anyways, this I don't know
Osborne.
what
Osborne.
Osborne now Warrant Officer Osborne, but he would go on and on in Afghanistan about how from whatever part of the South he was at, he was on like a I don't know, traveling line dancing team before he joined the Marine Corps. And
There's no fucking way that's true.
what he would say was just being on those line dancing teams was just a great way to slay ass. Um, so yeah, Osborne and his line dancing.
You can look at me like that, Brennan, but I'm telling you, you get to doing some line dancing. The gals are into line dancing. Um, you
Who?
want to
Your
get
fucking
laid as a
Meemaw,
single?
dude? Who the fuck?
No, 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 buddy. No, no, no. Go to some college towns in the South that do some line dancing.
I think
It's
I'm too old
insane.
to go pick up college girls, bro.
Yeah, you are now.
Fuck.
I mean, half your life is done. Honestly,
Why
when
don't
you
you
think
stop
about it.
talking? Just fucking, all right, that's been it for episode 92 of the fucking
Nope, nope.
War
I
Hero
got some more stuff.
podcast.
There, we're about to shout out your dad. So stay tuned. Um, anyway, Matt, when you were in the Marine Corps, if you don't mind sharing it, I was a little inking myself. How much did you weigh when you were in the Marine Corps? I'm getting to a
Mm,
point, Brennan. Shut up.
when I went to recruit training, I was like a buck 30, and then
Same.
like 150 or one something like that coming out of recruit training, and then my fighting weight in the fleet was like 165, but when I got back from each deployment, it was probably back down to 150. Um, yeah, so that and then post post service, it's
Oh, you know,
175, 180.
yeah. What I'm getting at though is the gear is not tailored down for the short kings. So a dude that is 300 pounds, like a 6'7" fella that's 300 pounds, could be carrying the same amount of weight as you. Usually they're gonna make him a machine gunner, put his body to use, but like sappy, I mean, just your everyday gear is the same as everybody else. And then you're talking about 100 pounds. And for engineers, we would carry occasionally like some stupid shit, or like we would do APOBs occasionally. So you got like your full battle rattle, and then you're carrying a 60-pound backpack too while you're sprinting on it, and it just wears your body down like crazy. All that heavy gear when you don't weigh a lot, takes your toll on like my knees. Every time I squat down, you can hear them crunching.
Yeah, you are right about the gear is just gear. It doesn't matter how tall you are. And on opposite end of it with, tall folk. Their sappy plate carrier may, not even touch their belly button. And then the nut protector that works just fine for me is like doesn't even go down all the way. So yeah, it's just same gear, same loadout,
You're
for
leaving
better or
out
worse.
an important detail, which is the absolute caveman troglodytes that work at SIF or IF now. The consolidated issue facility, now the individual issue facility. Last time I went to Horno, if I used to take seventh, I used to take boots from seventh to Horno if because the line was shorter. Uh, was like around Halloween, and there was not he this person was not wearing a Halloween costume, and I thought they were. I was like, cool Halloween costume. And it was they, was like, the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, I'll wait outside. I was like, you boots, get your shit. I'm going to wait outside because I already put my foot right into my mouth. Um, and that's who's giving you your gear. And they're like eyeballing it. They're like, extra large flag. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then if you're like a staff sergeant, the third platoon sergeant, I think, had an extra small sappy carrier because he was like, I don't want to carry that heavy shit. All they need to protect is heart and lung. And meanwhile, his nut protector is like touching the top of his fucking belly button.
I think it's gotten a little bit better since then, but oh man, the Marine Corps gear issue is a wild one. The boot camp one is the funniest though. Like you're getting wrong size camis, wrong size boots, wrong size cover. The tailors at boot camp, your shit is all fucked. You get to the fleet and you gotta like redo everything, finally get some camis that fit. Classic Marine Corps stuff.
I like that
Um,
they give the fat bodies at recruit training, they give them recycled camis because they're like, yeah, you're going to go on half rats and you're going to lose a bunch of weight. So we're going to give you some that we issued before. And then they get issued their actual camis way later.
and they have to get new skivvy shirts. They used to do like the spray paint the yellow lines on their skivvy shirts or whatever. So they like it was established that they were a fat body. You know what I'm talking about? They do that West
That is
Coast.
a
Now
fucking
it's
East Coast
gen
thing, bro.
yeah.
No, yeah, but like you couldn't hide that you were a fat body. If you were cutting it close and you were a fat body, then they marked you. I mean, and they're watching you all the time. Like, you grab a peanut butter packet at the chow hall, like drill instructor's gonna like kill everybody because he's fat body's eating peanut butter.
Ours got little plastic tags for like their shoulder pocket. And you get a little plastic tag. It says if you're double rats because you're skinny or if you're a fat body.
Hmm. Yeah, there wasn't like a way to identify on the outside. So like they could go through the chow line and ask for like double blueberry crisp or whatever. Did y'all have that at boot camp, that blueberry crisp, that dessert?
You
Shit.
couldn't ask for a damn thing.
Yeah,
No, it was some guy with fucking tattoos on his face and his hands like slopping shit onto your plate.
just different, I guess. I don't know. We had some. The ladies were nice, but they wore earplugs because the drill instructors were always yelling. All right, we got sidetracked. We always do that. You talk about in this chapter one of the last great things you got to do was see Brendan Clark re-enlist in the Marine Corps. You pinned him on, which is a great honor to do for somebody in the Marine Corps. You always want to get pinned on by people you look up to. Nothing's worse than like you couldn't find anybody good and like some shitbag you hate like pins on your rank. That's
No,
awful.
he did the re-enlistment. He didn't pin me on.
Oh, okay.
Mancino and
Okay,
Radabot
that's right.
pinned me on. Pinned me sergeant
Okay.
anyway.
Oh, your re-enlistment.
Correct.
So does Matt and your dad both get up there? They're like standing side by side with you, or how's that work? Or they just came to watch you?
Yeah, so the way that it was our battalion commander had some shit to do. He's taking leave or something. I don't know. And they were like, you got to get re-enlisted. You got to find a re-enlisting officer. And I was like, how the fuck is this on me? Like, I'm just some bitch. Like, I just work here. What are you talking about? I gotta find somebody. What do you want me to do? And they're like, you know anybody that's retired? Like, well, you got like an uncle or something? I was like, oh, dude, my dad's retired, but from the army, is that cool? And they were like, it doesn't fucking matter. As long as he's retired, he can legally re-enlist you. And then I was like, can my platoon sergeant from Afghanistan be the platoon sergeant for him? And they were like, sure, who cares? There's no rules, apparently. I'm fucking making this shit up on the fly. And so this was after I asked to re-enlist on a spy rig, and they said no. And then I asked for a re-enlistment incentive, and they said no. And then I was like, y'all can't give me shit. And they were like, actually, and they gave me a stack of honor, courage, commitment cards, which that's cool. I gave those out to all the dudes in the platoon that didn't have them. Anyway, so yeah, dude, my old man flew out. I think we talked about it a little bit in another episode. Wars Army camis. Everybody on Horno was like, who the fuck is this old Army guy? He's wearing
What?
ACUs.
Yeah, what general just showed up? What general officer is here? Is that the PACOM
Like
commander?
they're like, I'm pretty sure there's an army general in this smoke pit. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would that be here? Anyway, so we went to the trap and skeet range on Pendleton and did the reenlistment. That was my incentive. They were like, you can do it wherever. I was like, we do it in the afternoon at the trap and skeet range, like after lunch, we all meet there. Can we have the rest of the day off? They're like, yeah, sure. So I got my platoon the rest of the day off, got the comp platoon the rest of the day off. Went to the trap and skeet range. The old Captain Clark Bayonet Bill was the reenlisting officer. Sergeant Matthew Bruneman was the platoon sergeant for the reenlisting. And yeah, I mean, it went off without a hitch.
Classic Marine Corps not giving you shit, at least back then for reenlistment. Man, were they trying to keep you in, Matt? Were they gonna like if you would have stayed in? I know you verped out, but was there ever like any conversations for you about Marine Corps gonna do anything special for you to keep you in?
Yeah, I got a call from General Amos, and he said, you can't do this. You can't get out, and we need you back."
Let you
Um,
take Bonnie for a spin if you stick around.
yeah. I said, "Famous, I gotta go." And anyways, no, not really. It kind of sucks. I was, I guess like a man without a flag for like the last year that my Marine Corps career, that enlistment. So I sent to 1-1 to go be their experienced intel guy, immediately get sent down to Bravo Company. And then everybody knew I was just a temporary person there. Was a sergeant there, was supposed to get multiple fit reps, but never got any fit reps there. And then in Afghanistan, we were passed off during that Boldak extension, passed off to some like the Army unit. Didn't get a fit rep out of there. And then come back to the States. And then I don't know, after a while, I leave Bravo Company and head back up to headquarters company of 1-1. And then everybody was just like, well, this guy's getting out anyways, so, life's going to move on without him. So I just, was on my own program at that point. So no leadership saying I should um, get in or get out. So yeah, I mean, I like to think that I did a solid job in Afghanistan. The one fit rep that I got said I was average. I was an average Marine. Um, and then I beefed a lot with the 1-1 intel chief in Afghanistan. Like this dude narked on me to the battalion commander. So while I'm in Kajaki, had sent me an email about how I'm the shittiest Marine he's ever met and the worst intel analyst he's ever met. And he CC'd the battalion commander, the battalion executive officer, the S3 officer, our company commander. So yeah, so anyways, I got back, got a fit rep saying I was average. So yeah, nobody was really trying to keep me in, and I was just on my own program. When I got out and I went into IRR. Yeah, IRR. I had gotten a phone call um, while I was there saying, "Hey, you are in the below zone for staff sergeant. Do you want to come back in and take the intel chief position at whatever units in Hawaii?" But I declined.
That's the most real Marine Corps story ever. Nothing is like you get your fit rep from the most below average Marine possible telling you that you're average or below average. The irony of it is comical. Um, I know we all went through that
Speak
too
for your
damn.
fucking self, dude. My fit reps were exemplary until they were adverse.
Yeah, Dylan, you fucked up one time and it was
Dude,
scum of the Marine Corps.
I
Debatably
was
fucked
Kyle
up.
Watkins. I was Kyle Watkins' highest rated Marine in his entire career. And then my last fit rep was an adverse. And I'm like, they're like, we have to give you an adverse fit rep. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
Yep. Oh man, like when you know you're finally getting out though, it's like some peace. I try not to drop my pack too much, but fucking Brendan was trying to send me on a field up with to Bridge Company like 3 days before I got out. I'm like, dude, I don't like an overnight field up. I'm like, I don't have any SIF gear. I'm going home in 3 days. He's like, I think it was you. You're like, you can borrow mine, dude. I'm like, no, the fuck, I'm not. I'm not going on your field up. I get out in
Uh-uh.
3 days.
That would not have been me. I would never loan anybody my fucking SIF
Dude.
gear. Never,
It was
ever,
like
dude.
you, Sanchez, and somebody else up in the company office. Y'all called me up in there, and they're like, "Well, you need a sergeant to go on the field up." I'm like, "Well, it ain't gonna fucking be me. I
I
don't know
would
who."
not offer to loan you SIF gear.
Okay, okay,
There's 0% chance. I had too much SIF gear go missing throughout my time in the Marine
yep,
Corps to be fucking handing it out.
yep. But
Uh,
getting out, it's
and yeah, when I got back, so when your second deployment got back, and then when I was getting out, supposed to, well, no, 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 no. What is the issue of gear called for deployment? Is it
Tap gear.
taps? What is
Yeah,
it?
tap gear.
Tap gear. Um, do we give that back before post deployment leave, after, or is
I
do
can't
you keep
remember
it?
if I think we gave it back after post-deployment leave.
Yeah. So, anyways, I was already set on getting out, and then I go to supply to go turn in my tap gear, and for whatever reason, the supply marine that I turned it into was the staff sergeant, the supply chief, and he was just like, "Oh man, I can't believe how many times you got blown up, and tell me this, that, and whatever," and then just signed my checkout sheet and like, "All right, brother, have a good one," and I left, and so did my tap gear.
That's at the unit though. At the unit, like they can write that shit off a lot easier than writing off at the SIF. Like the
Oh
SIF is
yeah,
a
that
base thing. Like if the battalion probably had X amount of dollars of tap gear they could afford to write off anyways.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no way they won't even let you check out of SIF if get out of the Marine Corps if you still haven't, I don't know, brought back your $9 neck protector for
Dog,
the IBV that you never once wore because you're issued a plate carrier.
the fucking the rifle bolster that was for whatever your dominant shooting arm was that just I don't know if I ever got issued one, but whenever I had to exchange my MTV for a plate carrier, and they're like, "Where's your rifle bolster?" And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, what? It's something to do with the rifle? Doesn't that go to the armory? That doesn't go to you guys. No, no, they had to take that out of my fucking check. It was $50 or something.
Yeah.
and the
And take it out of
cleaning
my
it.
check, and I got like a counseling, like my staff NCO is like, "Can't believe you lose your gear."
Oh
Like,
yeah.
really? Is this a surprise?
Well,
Everybody in the fucking platoon is missing gear.
it trickles down though. Like 20 years ago, some guy got out and lost his leather gloves or his glove inserts. And so he has to get it from a boot who's going to be there for a long time. And then he goes to get out and doesn't have it. So he's got to get it from the other boot. And, like trickles down. And you're like, dude, I'll give you a fucking $100. I don't care. Just what's it going to take for you to give me your glove inserts that nobody even uses? Um, and then like your gear has to be beyond clean. That was the wildest part. Like everybody's taking their shit to the car wash, like pressure wash off your plate carrier or whatever. You're like making that coyote fabric like even wider so it's like less camouflage because you're like soap spraying the coyote shit.
Yeah, there's only one thief in the Marine Corps, and everyone else is just trying to get their shit back.
That
I
is
know
the truth.
I
Oh
know
my
him. I know the
motherfuckers.
thief.
It's you, motherfucker. It's you. No, we all dealt with that. The shit was too funny though. Like if you're washing anything in like the laundry room, like you have to be there with your gear because you'll come back and all your
Fucking
shit is gone.
eyes on, dude. If
Yeah.
it's Sif and you're putting it through the laundry machine in the barracks, dude, you sit your ass down there with like a monster and a fucking Kindle or something because it'll
D-
walk away.
Yeah, and don't get distracted either in case they're like trying to run some type of operation, like distract you so the other guy can sneak in and steal all your shit. Classic Marine Corps.
Yeah, if your stuff didn't get stolen, even just camis and like skivvies, whatever, you'd come back to the dryer and your wet shit would just be on top. Someone just took
Wetter,
out yours, threw theirs in there.
wetter than it was when you put it in the dryer. Like how in the fuck what is this the fucking time? Is this a time warp that we're in the laundry room? How? How is this wetter than it was earlier?
That shit is too funny though.
Tell me how the barracks duty never saw anything either. Like, what are you fucking doing, man? Like you're the one that has eyes on the one entry to the laundry room, and you didn't see somebody go in and steal my entire SIF issue, bro. What are you talking about?
Like too busy watching My Little Pony on his on his iPod.
He's,
He don't give a fuck.
he's
Nobody
all
on
right.
Barracks
He's
City
like
gives a
he's
fuck.
like nobody hates it in the barracks today more than I do.
No, there was a tradition at Cab though. Like if you were barracks duty, and pretty much there was one other time that the intercom was used for something different. But when the gut truck showed up, barracks duty would get on the intercom and scream, "Gut truck!" And then everybody would run out of the barracks room and go to the gut truck. And then the other time was the recon sergeant major telling everybody to get the fuck out of the barracks. And we did. And we police called for about a whole Saturday. All right. Anything else we want to talk about for chapter 15?
No, that was it. Just deciding to get out. Got out.
And the rest of us did too. Brennan lingered around in the Marine Corps for a while. Jokes on him. But when we return, we're going to dive into chapter 16, which is the resignation letter chapter, and then chapter 17, chapter 18, which are more,
They're
They're more personal
philosophical, bro.
views
yeah,
instead
more,
of attestations.
yep. Especially that last chapter. I think we're going to spend a lot of time on chapter 18, chapter 17. Um, chapter 16 is just interesting to why you shared that. I know you had a tough job. We'll dive into it on the next episode, but that is going to wrap up part 3 of your book review. Thank you for listening. Keep your powder dry.
The War Business Podcast is brought to you by Matthew Bruneman, Brendan Clark, and Dakota Maynard. Editing by Stephanie Maynard. The theme song is California Wind by Bruno E. The War Business Podcast cover art is the copyrighted property of the War Business Podcast. The book, War Business, The Hired Guns of Helmand Province, is copyrighted by Wargate Books. Wargate Books is not responsible or liable for any material or conversations produced and expressed by the War Business Podcast.